Tulsa cop Betty Shelby goes to court. Her lawyer says there's a medical reason behind her shooting of Terrence Crutcher, and experts explain your rights if you're stopped by the police. OU Nightly starts now. It's been 2 weeks since a Tulsa police officer shot and killed an unarmed black man on a Tulsa roadway. Shortly after the September 16th shooting, Betty Shelby bailed out of jail and hasn't been seen since.
Today, she emerged from seclusion to make her first appearance in court. Terrence Crutcher's family sat in the first two rows of a crowded courtroom in Tulsa County Courthouse when Shelby arrived for her arraignment. The suspended officer acknowledged her name but didn't say another word during the proceedings. Instead, her attorney entered her into a not guilty plea to the charge of first-degree manslaughter. Prosecutors say Shelby acted unreasonably when she confronted and shot Crutcher, who had abandoned his vehicle in the middle of the street. Shelby told investigators that when she thought Crutcher was reaching inside of his SUV, she feared for her life. After entering her plea, Shelby was escorted out of the courthouse and into a waiting vehicle. For the remainder of the trial process, she will remain free on bail. Her next court appearance will be November 29th.
Shelby's lawyer says there's a reason for the way she acted on that day, that she was experiencing what's commonly called auditory exclusion. That's a condition where people in high-stress situations often don't hear sounds around them. This means Shelby was so hyper-focused on the situation, she didn't hear other officers arrive or even the gunshot she fired. Her attorney says that while the defense won't revolve around whether or not she was aware of other officers, it would be important for jurors to know.
Tulsa police say it was Terrence Crutcher's failure to comply that ultimately led his deadly confrontation with Officer Shelby. Nightly's Catherine James shows us what the experts say you should do if you're stopped by the police.
For drivers and law enforcement, traffic stops are high-stress situations. It's a difficult time to try to remember your rights and how to stay safe.
When a police officer stops you, what I always say is that if someone has a badge and a gun, you comply.
According to police, compliance begins with communication.
We teach officers how to approach that particular vehicle, how to give commands so the person can comply with what we're doing.
An officer has a right to know your identity, to see your insurance verification, and to be safe at all times. But what's the best way for drivers to stay safe when they see red and blue in the rear view? Police and defense attorneys agree on a few key points, like keeping your hands in plain view. But what about when compliance isn't the issue? When an officer's preconceived ideas about a person, like racism, interfere with their ability to police fairly?
What you're talking about is implicit bias, and implicit bias is in all of us. And so we teach and we instruct our officers to be aware of implicit bias, not to get emotionally hijacked.
Norman PD combats implicit bias through cultural awareness training that teaches officers that the people they serve come from many diverse backgrounds and how to control their own biases.
You can't teach all of that out of a person, but you can at least instruct a person so they're aware that these things exist.
And as long as these issues persist,
Turn on your iPhone, hit the record button, make sure it's on. You don't have to tell the police officer that it's on.
recording an altercation with law enforcement often means the difference between conviction and acquittal. Catherine James, OU Nightly.
Oklahoma City's Black Lives Matter is hosting a memorial tonight in honor of Terrence Crutcher and others who have lost their lives to police shootings. The vigil starts at 6 at the East 6th Street Christian Church. Now, it's been fairly nice this week.
It has. I've really been enjoying this weather. I loved that cold front that came through.
Ashley, what can we expect?
Well, right now, we do not have any showers and thunderstorms out there right now, except for up in the Oklahoma Panhandle. Up near Guyman, as you can see, it is clear, and we do have those sunny skies. Right now, it is currently 75. Winds are out of the south-southwest at 3 miles per hour, and the humidity is only at 32%, so it feels really nice today. Temperatures around the state are in the mid to upper 70s, 75 here in Norman, Oklahoma City, 74 in Enid, 77 up in Woodward. And then coming up, I'll have your look at Hurricane Matthew, your weekend forecast, and the next chances we can see for rain. Back to you guys.
The third person to be killed by a train in this month alone has been identified. Police believe the victim, Michael Andrew Rayleigh, was standing too close to the train tracks when the train struck him. The two previous deaths were rolled as suicides, and Rayleigh's is still under investigation.
And a major victory for Norman residents who in the past have felt disenfranchised. Norman City Council was filled with red this week in support of LGBTQ History Month. And when the votes were counted, the crowded room gave the council's action a standing ovation.
A medical marijuana measure is assured to get on a statewide ballot in Oklahoma. Supporters collected more than 67,000 signatures to place State Question 788 in front of voters, but they were too late for the November 8th ballot. It could be voted on in 2018.
OU Nightly's JC Bayless joins us now in the News Center with the latest on bombings in Syria. JC?
The United Nations is asking for a 48-hour ceasefire in Syria. The UN says it needs to get humanitarian aid in rebel-held eastern Aleppo. Heavy bombardment of that area today killed 338 people. Opposition leaders estimate more than 9,000 people have been killed since Russian airstrikes began 1 year ago. And Donald Trump's charitable foundation was never certified to solicit money from the public. There is a clear record that Trump has received more than the $25,000 limit from outsiders. If New York's Attorney General finds that the Trump Foundation raised money in violation of the law, he could order the charity to stop raising money immediately. And an Alabama judiciary court suspended Chief Justice Roy Moore today for defying the U.S. Supreme Court on gay marriage. In February 2015, Moore told probate judges to follow Alabama law regarding same-sex marriage licenses. This is the second time the outspoken Christian conservative has been removed from the bench.
Thanks, JC.
No problem.
And Senator James Lankford is seeking a 6-month delay on a rule that will make millions of white-collar workers eligible for overtime. Lankford cited concerns from nonprofit organizations, businesses, and American Indian tribes that the rule will quickly lead to job loss and increased tuition. And still ahead on OU Nightly.
A software company has a new idea for unpaid vacations, and Ashley's here with weather.
Welcome back to OU Nightly. I'm Ashley Pratt. Well, we do have this low pressure system over here in the Midwestern U.S. that is creating some rain for those areas over in the East Coast up towards New York, so they are getting some nice rain there. We do also have Matthew that is now currently a Category 4 hurricane, and it will move up towards Jamaica by Monday at 1 p.m. and then it will start to go off north as well, and it will graze the Florida coast, and by that time it'll decrease down to a Category 2. The winds currently right now are at 145 miles per hour, so it is at a major hurricane strength for right now. Future radar, we will not have any showers and thunderstorms this weekend, as you can see. However, we will have a few clouds that will linger over for this weekend. And then as we look at the lows for tonight, they will be in the mid to upper 50s. The evening planar for tonight at 8 p.m. It'll be 66 degrees and will cool down to 59 by midnight. Might need that jacket because it will be a little bit chilly outside. Highs for tomorrow will be in the mid to upper 70s and lower 80s, 82 McAllister, 79 in Oklahoma City. Well, we do have a cool thing happening with the moon tonight. It's the black moon. This happens, sometimes we have moon during, we will have a new moon twice this month, so that will look really cool for us. However, you won't really be able to see anything since it is a new moon phase. Looking at our 7-day forecast, we will keep the temperatures in the 70s and upper 80s for the week. We will have a chance for severe weather on Tuesday, just a 30% chance of severe weather. Lows will be in the mid to upper 60s for the week as well, so it'll be feeling a lot more like fall here, guys.
Great, that sounds awesome. Can't wait for this weather. Thanks,
Me too.
Ashley. A software company in Utah may now have the happiest employees in the country. Bamboo HR implemented a new program called paid vacation. And it's exactly what it sounds like. The company will reimburse their eligible workers up to $2,000 for their vacation costs. The money can be used to cover costs ranging from flight transportation to meals.
And that's it for news this Friday night, but don't leave just yet. Big Friday Sports is on deck.
Yes, our sports team gives you an extended look at what's happening in sports. Blakely Durham is here with more.
Thanks, guys. Big 12 play is finally here. Sooner fans, we'll get you prepared for the game tomorrow. And we'll be going live from Fort Worth at the TCU Stadium for some exclusive pregame coverage. All that coming up on Big Friday Sports. Sports, I'm Blakely Durham.
And I'm Stephen Mudd. Last year's OU versus TCU game was a wild one. Let's take a look at how wild it was. The quarterback drops back, rolls right, throws it up in the air, and no sir, no sir, no sir, says Stephen Parker as he swats the ball away to keep the Sooners alive 30-29. Here is what Baker Mayfield has to say about this year's game.
It's an exciting week to realize that we still have a lot in front of us. It's been good to get out there and kind of focus on us, focus back on the tempo, and get it kind of back on track.
And we are joined now by some of our Game Day U crew who are live in Fort Worth getting ready for the game tomorrow. Carson, we'll go to you first. Give us your key for the game.
Thanks, Blakely. We are live in Fort Worth at M&G Carter Stadium. I'm Carson Williams. This is Reagan Ledbetter. Our big key to the game tomorrow on offense is the rushing. It all starts with Joe Mixon and Samaje Perine, right, Reagan?
Yes, it does. I mean, I think it's important for OU to not only start fast, but get Joe Mixon involved early. And we saw it down in Houston. Those first 2 drives, it was all Mixon. And look what happened. They had 2 good drives, 10 points starting out early, but that's where it all fell off. And now we've seen the last couple of weeks struggling to run the ball.
Right, and then all that starts in the trenches. You have to be able to get leverage on the defense, create holes. That's definitely big for Samaje Perine, because without that, he really can't create for himself like Joe Mixon can.
You know TCU's going to load the box. It's a Gary Patterson defense. We all know what's going to happen.
Right.
Samaje Perine's going to have a tough day trying to get through those holes. That's where I said you factor in Joe Mixon, where he's electric, he's quick, he's fast. He's a guy who can make plays with little he's got, and I think he's going to be the big key to tomorrow's game.
Yeah, that's for sure. Rushing the ball opens up stuff through the air, and that'll be big for Baker Mayfield's confidence. And that's about it from here. Now, guys, back to you in the studio.
Hey, thanks, guys. We'll come back to you later in the show. But for now, let's shift gears to some other Sooner sports happening this weekend. Steven?
Yeah, absolutely. The Sooners football team isn't the only team traveling this weekend. The 23rd ranked women's soccer team will be in Iowa tonight, squaring off against the Iowa State Cyclones at 7 p.m. And then they will travel to West Virginia to take on the 4th ranked Mountaineers at 2 p.m. on Sunday.
Well, the Sooner volleyball team will also be traveling to Fort Worth this weekend. OU volleyball is headed south to take on the Horned Frogs tomorrow at noon. The Sooners are coming off some tough losses to ranked opponents, so hopefully they are able to get back on track to begin Big 12 play. And star pitcher Paige Parker and the defending national champion softball team is back in action this weekend for the annual Fall Festival tournament. Sooners play tonight at 6:30 against Temple College and have a doubleheader tomorrow against Seminole State and Northern Oklahoma College.
The OU men's golf team will also be in Fort Worth this weekend. The Sooners will be playing in the Nike Collegiate Invitational from October 2nd to October 4th. After an impressive tournament win in the Gopher Invitational, the Sooners are hoping for a similar result this weekend.
And men's and women's tennis kick off the ITA All-Americans Championship this weekend. The women will be in Los Angeles, while the men will be playing in Tulsa. The tournament begins today and will run through Sunday.
And still to come on Big Friday Sports, a Big 12 quarterback was injured last night.
Find out who that is and see highlights from last night's Dolphins-Bengals game coming up next on Big Friday Sports.
Welcome back to Big Friday Sports. I'm Ashley Pratt. Well, if you're going down to the game this weekend in Texas and you're tailgating, it is going to be perfect for it. It'll be plenty of sunshine with very limited clouds. Temperatures will be in the lower 80s and winds will be out of the southeast at 5 to 10 miles per hour. So this will really help it feel really nice and warm outside with still feeling like fall. So it should be great for the game tonight. Back to you guys at the desk.
Thanks, Ashley. Plenty more to get to. Big game tomorrow, Blakely. What is your take? Give it to me.
Well, my take for the game is utilizing Mark Andrews. Andrews has 9 catches on the year for 211 yards, not to mention at least 1 touchdown in all 3 games. He's the most valuable receiver we have, or the Sooners have on offense, and he's almost always open. Now, the offense was in a slump during the Ohio State game, and they need to get that spark back. Andrews can be that spark, and it will be really important for Mayfield to get him the ball so he can get some momentum going for the offense.
I couldn't agree more, Blakely. However, I think the Sooners' key is in the trenches, both offensively and defensively. The offensive line has given up 11 sacks in only 3 games, and the defense has sacked the opposing quarterback 5 times. That's how many Houston had against the Sooners in the opening week. If the Sooners want any shot this weekend, they have to protect Baker Mayfield, create holes in the run game, and the D-line has to get pressure on Kenny Hill.
Well, now we will take you back to Fort Worth and hear some more insight from our Game Day U crew. Reagan, what's your take for tomorrow's game?
Thanks, Blakely. Despite OU needed to establish a run game early, I think this game comes down to defense. On the defense side of the ball, a defense who still lacks that one pick to start their season in 4 games now, and a team that has struggled to contain that elusive quarterback all year long, and Greg Ward for Houston and JT Barrett for Ohio State. Now they have Kenny Hill, a guy who's been lighting it up on the scoreboard with over 370 yards passing on the season. What do you think?
It all starts on the defensive line, and now that Matt Diamond's out for them, that's going to be a big hit for OU. For the linebackers, Tay Evans is out, so you've got 2 starters in your front 7 that are going to be out. Big loss for Oklahoma, but they've got to find a way to get pressure, get to the quarterback, get in the backfield, and get to Kenny Hill.
They got to find that guy off the edge. I mean, he had Stryker the last couple of years who brought pressure on the edge and made it tough for those quarterbacks, and now the Sooners have yet to find a guy who can do that like you have with Stryker and guys like last year. So I think it comes down to that. It comes down to helping your cornerbacks. Cornerbacks have struggled all season long, and it's able to get pressure on a quarterback like Kenny Hill makes the job for the cornerbacks much, much, much easier.
Right.
All right, guys, we are under 24 hours until kickoff. That's it for now in Fort Worth. Back to you in Norman.
Thanks, Carson and Reagan. Looking forward to see more coverage from you guys on tomorrow's game. But for right now, let's go to some Big 12 news. Steven?
Yeah, absolutely. In other Big 12 news, Texas Tech quarterback Patrick Mahomes was injured last night in their game against the Kansas Jayhawks. Halfway through the third quarter, Mahomes would take off for a 32-yard scamper. Mahomes is slow to get up here. He would leave the game with a shoulder injury, but have no fear. Nick Shimanek is here. Shimanek would finish the game for the Red Raiders and throw for 271 yards and 4 touchdown passes as Tech would cruise to a 55-19 beatdown over the Jayhawks.
Well, the Houston Cougars and fans got their revenge on UConn last night. Here in the second quarter, Ward Jr. connects with Stephen Dunbar for a 15-yard touchdown pass. Cougars up 28-0. Pretty much all Houston from there. Catch of the game goes to Linnell Bonner with this one-hander in the back of the end zone. Cougars would win this one easy, 42-14, and they are still undefeated.
Moving to the NFL. Last night, the Dolphins in their odd-looking uniforms took on the Cincinnati Bengals last night. The only thing impressive about this game was A.J. Green. 10 catches on 173 yards receiving and 1 touchdown. The touchdown would come later on a beautiful screenplay right here for 7 yards. The Bengals would eventually kick 5 field goals en route to a 22-7 win over the Dolphins.
And Browns wide receiver Josh Gordon is going to rehab. Gordon announced he is putting his professional football career on hold to try to deal with some personal issues. Gordon has been suspended in the past for both drug and alcohol abuse. The Browns have supported Gordon through his issues, but say it may finally be time for the organization to move on as well.
And as for baseball, last night had a bonkers of a finish for the St. Louis Cardinals and the Cincinnati Reds. I'll set the scene for you. Bottom of the ninth. The score is tied 3-3, 2 outs. Cardinals' Yadier Molina hits a line drive to left field, bounces up off the wall, allowing Matt Carpenter to come around from first and score the winning run. Game over. But What the umpires missed was the ball hit the advertisement behind the wall, essentially causing it to be a ground rule double, and Carpenter should have been stopped at third. However, that wasn't what happened, and the Cardinals would win 4-3.
That was crazy. Well, and the U.S. is off to a great start at the Ryder Cup. The Americans swept all 4 matches on day 1, and that is all we've got for you.
Enjoy best of the moment.
Whose story of perseverance and triumph inspired so many.
Breaking news into the newsroom. Golf legend Arnold Palmer is dead at the age of 87.
Toward the back corner. What a catch! Wow. Touchdown! Here's the rookie.